Welcome to Islamicus, where faith meets the future. In a world driven by technology and constant change, we explore how timeless Islamic wisdom connects with the digital age. From AI ethics to spiritual mindfulness in modern life, we uncover how faith can guide innovation and how innovation can deepen our understanding of faith. Join us as we bring together thinkers, scholars, and storytellers, shaping a smarter, more soulful tomorrow.
We're here to take, complex histories, dense sources, and really distill them down to the essentials for you.
That's the goal.
And today, we are heading back, way back, to 12th century Baghdad. We're looking into a spiritual and intellectual giant, Shaykh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilaani. His influence is, well, it's almost unmatched.
It really is an incredible journey to take. Al-Jilaani passed away in 1166, but he remains one of the most widely revered figures in the Islamic tradition.
Right.
And we're not just looking at dried history here. We're digging into the core of his wisdom, mainly using his 40 advices and also some powerful bits from his sermons, like Al-Father Rabbani.
Okay, so our mission today is to really chart the course of his message, which was, frankly, uncompromising. He was born around 1077 in Gilan, Persia, but things really took off for him when he moved to Baghdad around 1095.
Baghdad was the place to be then, the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate.
Exactly. He went for education, became this renowned preacher, a deep scholar in the Hanbali legal school, and eventually, he founded the Qadiriyya Sufi order, which is huge, one of the oldest, most widespread ones.
Right. He was a real polymath for his time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his enduring appeal, why people still study him, lies in how he managed to bring together two worlds that can sometimes seem separate. Strict adherence to the religious law, the Sharia, and that deep inner knowing, that spiritual insight called marifa.
So law and spirit together.
Precisely. One source actually described his goal as instilling faith in dead hearts. It's such a powerful way to put it, thinking about spiritual renewal.
Faith in dead hearts. Wow. Okay, let's unpack this. We should probably start with his approach to authority, specifically the authority of the speaker, the teacher. He seems unafraid to challenge people.
Oh, completely unafraid. This really sets the tone. His first foundational point is about sincerity for anyone claiming to guide others.
And how did he define that?
Well, he knew that real authority doesn't come from status. It comes from internal truth. He had this really blistering critique for speakers who were maybe more focused on personal gain.
Like what?
He warned the audience directly. He said, a genuine speaker must not have his eye on your turbans, your attire, and your pockets.
Wow, that's direct. Imagine hearing that in 12th century Baghdad aimed at the religious establishment.
Exactly. He argued that if a speaker has those greedy expectations, if they're sizing up the audience's wealth, then their words are just, well, an empty shell with no pearl, a bone with no meat on it.
So basically hollow words. He's calling out spiritual phonies.
That's exactly it. And this is where his own method really stood out. His authority wasn't just talk. It came from combining this tough, honest counsel with clear legal rulings, fatwa, and, crucially, his own actions. His own conduct backed it up.
Right. He practiced what he preached.
He wasn't asking anything of others that he wasn't visibly living himself.
But that level of purity, that sincerity, isn't that almost an impossible standard for, the average person? Or even an average guide? How did he make that practical?
That's the key. He did make it practical. Once he establishes the speaker's need for sincerity, he immediately turns to the listener's own struggles, their priorities.
Okay.
He knew the real spiritual battles happen in daily life, in the marketplace, at work, in the home.
Yeah, you can really see that in his advice about realignment. It's almost like a blueprint, isn't it? He tells people, basically, put the obligatory prayer before your shop's business.
Right.
Put the hereafter before worldly stuff, and put Allah's commands before your own desires.
It sounds simple, maybe, but think about today. That's like saying prioritize your deep purpose, your spiritual health, over the constant pressure of career deadlines or social media feeds.
That's a very modern translation.
He understood that it's those small, daily choices and compromises that really shape a person's spiritual state.
And it wasn't just about managing your time or priorities, was it? He got very physical, very grounded, talking about diet.
Yes, the lawful diet. He argued that you absolutely must purify what you eat, down to every single morsel if it's unlawful. Because forbidden food, he said, darkens the heart.
Darkens the heart, that's potent.
It's a core idea in spiritual purification, tazkiyah al-nafs. He viewed the heart almost like like an instrument.
Yeah.
It needs to be kept clean to work properly. If you feed it things that are doubtful or forbidden, it just gets murky, unresponsive.
And he had that analogy, didn't he? The one about the hen. It's quite vivid.
Oh, the hen analogy is brilliant. It makes something abstract feel very real.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so he compares the lower self, the nafs, the part of us with base appetites, to a hen that just pecks around in garbage, eating refuse.
Right.
Now, if that hen eats garbage, its eggs become foul, maybe even harmful. So to get good eggs, what do you have to do? You have to confine the hen,
Okay.
you pen it up, and you feed it only pure, clean food. You do that until, as he put it, it loses the flesh it developed from its unlawful intake.
Wow. So the very substance of the hen changes.
Exactly. And the spiritual lesson is crystal clear. Your inner self, your nafs, needs restraint. It needs to be purified from old, harmful habits and fed only what's pure and lawful until its very nature starts to shift.
It really is like a spiritual detox program. So you purify the vessel, you clean up your intake, but then what? How do you maintain that?
That's where dhikr comes in. Constant maintenance is key. He connected that practical effort of purification back to keeping the spirit alive through remembrance.
Dhikr, the remembrance of God?
Yes, dhikr, and reciting the Quran. He saw these as the causes of constant good in a person's life. He famously said they restore dead hearts.
Like the earlier quote.
Just as the dead earth is restored to life by the refreshing rain. Purification gets you started, but remembrance is like the water that keeps the heart alive and connected.
Okay, so if inner purification is the practice, the how-to, then the absolute foundation, the core theory underneath it all has to be tawhid, uncompromising monotheism.
Absolutely. This is the bedrock of everything he taught. And for him, tawhid wasn't just saying there is one God. It had to be lived internally, consistently.
This is where it gets really intense, isn't it?
Yes, fierce is the word.
Yeah.
He was deeply concerned about the idols people worship that aren't made of stone or wood, the ones inside the human heart.
Internal idols.
He spent a lot of energy warning against what's called shirk kafi hidden, or internal polytheism, associating partners with God in your heart, essentially.
That idea of internal polytheism, it feels very relevant today. The idols he described, they sound quite modern. What were some examples he gave?
Well, they were all about depending on created things instead of the creator, like being more afraid of a powerful ruler than of God. Or, and this hits home for many, relying entirely on your employer, your paymaster, for your sustenance. He also warned against putting absolute faith in your own profits, your physical strength, or your business earnings as the ultimate source of your security.
So let me get this straight. If you're living in constant, gut-wrenching fear of losing your job, or if your entire sense of self-worth hinges on your bank balance, you've essentially made those things idols in your heart.
That is precisely his point. He had this incredibly powerful defining line. Anything that you hold at such a station is that which you worship.
Wow, that's sobering.
It is. And notice, he's not condemning hard work or being successful. He's criticizing the internal reliance on those things as ultimate.
That completely reframes ambition, doesn't it? If your inner trust is solely in the outcome, the money, the status, you're worshiping the mechanism, not the ultimate source.
Exactly.
So how did he then translate this absolute oneness, this tawhid, into practical, observable actions for his followers? How does it look in daily life?
That leads to the concept of tawhid al-afal, the oneness of actions. It means you put in your absolute best effort. You do everything you possibly can. But you maintain complete reliance, tawakkul, on the divine for the outcome.
Tawakkul.
Right. And the core realization here is accepting that everything that happens, all actions, all occurrences, whether we perceive them as good or bad, are ultimately from the divine decree.
Can you give us an example? Because tawakkul can sometimes be mistaken for just being passive, giving up, but al-Jilaani insisted on effort.
Sure. Think about something like a really important job interview or maybe a big business negotiation. You prepare like crazy, right? You study, you practice, you put in maximum professional effort. That's the Sharia part, the action.
Okay.
But once the interview is done, once the negotiation is over, tawakkul means you release the outcome. You let it go internally. Success or failure, you accept it as part of a larger divine plan, not purely as a reflection of your own brilliance or inadequacy.
So it builds resilience.
Exactly. For you, the learner today, this is the key to real psychological peace. If you truly rely on the source, you're not so easily crushed by worldly fears or losses.
That makes sense. It's like spiritual shock absorption. But this deep spiritual reality, this hakika he talked about, it still needs an anchor, right? He seems to have had a very sharp correction for people who thought spiritual enlightenment meant they could just ignore the basic rules.
Oh, absolutely critical, yes. This might be one of his most important teachings, especially given the context of Sufism, where you sometimes had individuals claiming their inner state put them above the external law.
Right, that can be a danger zone.
Al-Jilaani was firm. He stressed that marifa, true knowledge of God, gives you deep understanding, yes, but the Sharia, the sacred law, must be the foundation. Always.
Why was drawing that line so vital for him back then?
Well, think about it. Without that grounding in the law, spiritual experiences can easily drift into delusion, ego trips, or practices that are just self-serving. He was making sure the mystical path stayed firmly rooted in mainstream Orthodox tradition.
And he had a quote on this, didn't he? A really strong one.
Extremely strong. He said, "Any article of Hakika reality that is not acknowledged by the Sharia is nothing but an atheistic heresy."
Heresy. Wow, okay. No ambiguity there. The law guides the journey, spirituality illuminates it. You need both.
Precisely. They work together.
Okay, now let's shift focus a bit to the legacy he left. It's enormous. We mentioned the Qadiriyya order he founded. It spread incredibly far, India, Africa, even China. And it survived major historical upheavals, like the Mongol sack of Baghdad in 1258.
That alone tells you something about its strength and appeal. And his sermons, we hear, drew massive crowds. Some sources mention numbers like 50,000 people.
50,000, that's stadium level.
Huge numbers for that era. It shows the kind of impact he had in his own lifetime. And his scholarly contributions were significant too. He taught across different fields: fiqh, law, hadith, prophetic traditions, Aqidah, theology. He earned that title, Musaddin, Reviver of Islam, for a reason.
He was clearly a pillar both intellectually and spiritually. But his legacy, it seems to have this interesting split, doesn't it? There's the rigorous scholar we've been discussing, and then there's this almost larger-than-life spiritual legend built up around him later.
Absolutely. That's where the tension comes in. It's in the hagiography, the devotional biographies written after he died. Now, he was undoubtedly seen as a saintly figure, and many miracles, karamat, are attributed to him. That's common for figures of his stature.
Right.
However, even fairly early on, respected classical scholars like Ibn Qadir and al-Dahabi urged caution. They noted that most of the reports about his miracles are exaggerated. Some they even called mustahil, impossible.
Exaggerated or impossible.
Right.
Okay, so there was already a critical perspective emerging among scholars. And this leads directly to the controversy, or maybe the paradox, around that specific title he was given posthumously, Gawth al-Azam.
Exactly. Gawth al-Azam, it means the greatest succor or the greatest helper.
The greatest helper.
It implies the absolute highest rank among Sufi saints. And for some devotees, this evolved into a belief that he holds immense power to intervene in the universe, maybe even alter destiny.
Okay, but hold on. If we connect that belief back to his own teachings we just discussed...
It creates a fundamental conflict, a huge contradiction.
Because his whole message was built on tawhid, on the idea that absolute reliance, tawakkul, the power to truly help or harm, belongs only to Allah, to God alone.
Precisely. So the profound irony, the paradox, is this. A man who dedicated his entire life to teaching that absolute reliance is due only to the Creator becomes, in the eyes of many of his most ardent followers, the very embodiment of the kind of ultimate power and help he insisted belonged exclusively to God.
It's like the messenger became the message, in a way that contradicts the original message.
It's often the fate of great spiritual teachers, isn't it? The historical person can get obscured by the myth built around them. The actual Shaykh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilaani worked tirelessly to purify people's hearts from those internal idols, insisting that turning to any created being, whether a ruler, your wealth, or even a saint for ultimate help, was a subtle form of polytheism.
So if we strip away the later legends, the core enduring value of his work really lies in that relentless focus on inner purification, tazkiyah al-nafs, but always, always grounded in strict adherence to the sacred law.
That's his true genius, I think. He was like a physician for the soul, demanding absolute spiritual honesty, both from the teacher and from the person seeking guidance.
Right.
And this leaves us with a really interesting, maybe provocative thought for you to take away and ponder. The historical Shaykh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilaani spent his life teaching that absolute reliance belongs to the Creator alone. His writings on Tawhid are crystal clear, uncompromising. So how does a figure who preached such fundamental purity, such singular focus on God, become himself the subject of the very kind of veneration and reliance he warned against?
That tension between the man's fierce teaching and the devotion he later inspired, That's the complex paradox his legacy leaves us with. Something to really think about.
Thanks so much for tuning into Islamicus, where faith meets the future. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and hit like. It really helps us grow and reach more curious minds like you. Stay connected, stay inspired, and as always, stay blessed.